Hey, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to be talking about two flashlights, basically a head-to-head, comparing them, seeing the pros and cons of these lights. This was requested by two different people, and three different people have been talking about this light in particular. I had a couple questions on programming it, so I made a separate video dedicated just to show how to program this light, okay? So we have here on the left is the Streamlight Protac HL. And on the right, we have the Thrunite T30S version 2, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about here in comparing these lights, talking about the pros and cons, maybe which light you'd want over the other one, because they both do have pros and cons. Just depends on what you're looking for in your flashlight. But, upon first appearance, you can see that the Thrunite is a longer flashlight. They both do sport pocket clips. Both of the pocket clips do function just fine. No issues there at all for me. I don't normally clip it to my pocket. I will for testing purposes, but if you just catch me randomly on the street or whatever, I probably don't have a large light clipped to me. I more than likely have a small light in the pocket, but occasionally I'll use them anyway, just to try them out. The big difference between the two models here is you see that the Thrunite has the cigar ring, all right, which is basically this ring here that sticks out, and this offers a couple more grip options. Again, a little bit more on the tactical side here. All right, so let's talk about these bezels. You can see that they're both crenulated bezels, and all that means is that there's cutouts here. There's two real big purposes for having a crenulated bezel. Number one is for defensive situations, when you're striking and hitting and jabbing people, and that thing that never happens for most people because it's extremely rare. But God forbid you do have to use your flashlight to defend yourself. You'd want a more pronounced crenulated bezel like the Thrunite has, okay? Much more acute points. It's, thinner. It's just better for striking purposes. But I'm not really concerned with that all that much. I have plenty of options to defend myself. What I like crenulated bezels for is for this reason. When I keep my flashlight on, or if I'm using my flashlight and I go to put it down on a flat surface, that allows light to escape. What that tells me is my flashlight's on. When you have a flat bezel, the rare chance you go to put it down and you forget that it's on, you could drain your batteries out, okay? So it's a very small detail, but something I happen to personally like. All right, so that's how I see it, the crenulated bezels being very functional in everyday, usage. Like I said, most people aren't bashing in, attackers with their flashlights, but should certainly be noted there. Looking into the business end here, you can see that the Thrunite has a very smooth reflector. Okay, this gives this light a little bit more throw. You might see that in the demo later in the video, as opposed to the Stipple Reflector here in the Streamlight. Okay, the stippling, or basically texturing inside the reflector, what it does is as the light is coming out, it's bouncing in all those nooks and crannies and it spreads it out nice and evenly. When you're looking for more of a spread or a wider beam, you want some kind of texturing on your reflector. When you're looking for a concentrated beam that goes further but has a tighter kind of pattern to it, that's when you want smooth. Okay, and again, you're going to see that in the demonstration we'll do later outside. As far as the LEDs here, on the right, again, this is the Thrunite. The Thrunite sports a Cree XM-L2 U2 LED, which I'm very, very familiar with at this point with lots of different flashlights. Whereas the Streamlight uses a C4 LED. C4 LED is something somewhat new to me. I have plenty of use on this light, but other than that, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other flashlights that use a C4, that I can reference at least in this video. But they've been pretty good. I will tell you that the Streamlight, I've had some issues with it flickering. I don't know if we're going to see that later in the demo or not, but with fresh cells, sometimes this back, you can see that obviously it unscrews for your battery compartment. Of course, that's not considered flickering. That's just the, the strobe mode. But sometimes when this was on, I just got a little bit of a weird flickering. It could just be because this has a lot of use on it. Perhaps the wiring inside is a little bit loose or something. I don't know the exact reason why, but it hasn't been as consistent as I would like, put it that way. With lots of use on it, starting to have a little bit of issues here and there with it, basically staying on. All right, so let's take a look at the knurling. Okay, you can see that obviously most flashlights these days do have knurling. It's this cross cut. It's supposed to add a little bit more grip to the light. The knurling on the Thrunite is somewhat smooth. I can definitely see that it is more aggressive on the Streamlight. Okay, so it's a little bit more grippy. Not that it's ever been an issue either way, but if that's something that you're very focused on in your flashlights, you want a very extra grippy one, the Streamlight would definitely win over the Thrunite in that case. All right, so moving on to the tail caps here. You can see that on the Thrunite, there's a dedicated side button for your mode changings, okay? So you're reverse clicking on the back turns the light on, but then you have a separate button that changes your modes. Okay, it could be a positive or a negative depending on what you're looking for in your flashlight. I happen to like that. In the Streamlight, it's just momentary on in a quick succession is going to change your modes. I prefer the Thrunite for sure because of that feature. It's just a cool little feature, totally unnecessary, but still cool. But the Thrunite gets a hit on this because if you can see, if you guys see what I see, the Thrunite will not tail stand. Okay, this is big for me. I want my flashlights to be able to do that. Okay, so in an emergency situation, I could turn the light on when I have no power, put this onto a table or a ledge somewhere in my house and light up the room. That's a big thing for me. Okay, and unfortunately, this is an awesome flashlight, but it does not have that feature, okay, which I don't like at all. Yeah, so you can see again, the frame passes that tail clicky, whereas this is exposed. Another thing you can come up with, you know, or assume will happen, it never happened to me really, but because you have an exposed button here, and because the pocket clip is orientated in this position where it's going to be sticking out of your pocket like this, you could damage the tail cap, or you know, it's the boot, I guess is what it's called. This could rip or tear. I've never had anything like that happen. Of course it's possible, but probably rare or unlikely. So having it exposed here, for me, I'm not worried about it being damaged. I am worrying about the fact that I can't have this tail stand, okay? All right, guys, so let's talk about the battery source here. Both of these flashlights run on a single 18650 rechargeable lithium battery, or they can also both run on double CR123s, which is what I have the Streamlight running on right now for this demo. Okay, so these batteries are interchangeable. In this case, I have two CR123s or an 18650. Works with both flashlights. Okay, so it's nice to have a little backup. I do prefer the 18650s for lots and lots of reasons, but if you don't have one, or if they're drained completely, in a pinch, you could throw in CR123s, which is pretty cool. All right, so now I just want to go over a couple of the modes here so you guys get an idea. If you didn't see, I have reviews, I believe, on both lights, but just a quick recap. The Thrunite T30S has 4 modes. The first mode is going to be your low mode, or in this case, it's a moonlight. It's extremely low. It's only 5 lumens. You get a 20-hour runtime on that. Then your medium is 186 lumens for 7 hours, and your high output is 860 lumens for about an hour and 50 minutes or so. For strobe, you're going to just hold that button down on the side, and then you get your strobe. It's usually double your runtime of your high mode, but of course the same output. So in short, you got a couple cool modes there. 860 lumens is your high output. So what's that going to cost you? 40 bucks. That's what these sell for. That's an Amazon price, depending on where you're going to buy it. But $40 for this flashlight, 860 lumens, it maxes out. All right, so now let's talk about the Streamlight here, okay? On high, you're going to get 600 lumens for about 2.5 hours. All right, then on your second mode here, your strobe, you're going to get the same 600 lumens, but twice that output. It's pretty common for flashlights. And then, of course, the last mode here is going to be low, and that's 33 lumens for 18 hours. Now, what are you paying for that? 70 bucks. They're actually a little bit more. If you look on it, I'm going to put the link to the $70 one on Amazon, but they are selling for more elsewhere, as well as Amazon. Depends on, you know, what person you're buying, whether you're buying through Amazon itself or another retailer that's using Amazon as like a selling platform. Just depends, but about 70 bucks here. All right, so to sum everything up, let's think about this. We have the Streamlight here, okay, for $70, I'm getting 3 modes and a high of 600 lumens. Now for the Thrunite, it's only 40 bucks, okay, that's almost half the price. I'm also getting an extra mode, I'm getting 4 modes, and it's 860 lumens, okay? So it should be very clear that this is the better light. Now I use air quotes here because there's a lot of features on this that I love way more than this. However, the no tail stand thing, it bugs me. So in my specific situation, I would take the Streamlight over it. I like the Streamlight more because of the tail stand. It's a must for me. That's a personal attribute that I have to have in my flashlights. You know what I mean? That's why it's just my personal preference. That's why there's so many lights in the market, because everyone has different needs and different wants. But for the average person, I would say the Thrunite's probably better for you. It's just got cooler features and offers more for your money. But the programmable part of this, which I made a separate dedicated video on, is a cool function too. So, you know, 6 to 1, half dozen the other. But as far as the head-to-head, like literally what's the better flashlight on paper? The Thrunite, hands down. It's just I'd prefer the Streamlight. But I have to say, they're both great lights. You can reference the actual reviews of both these lights if you want. And if you own either or both of these lights, I'd love to hear your comments down below. I always, you know, encourage people to read and watch videos on multiple different sources, not just my own. If I say a light's cool or a light's good, that's great. You got my thumbs up, but I always recommend that you get lots of people's opinions before you go ahead and spend your hard-earned money on them. But yeah, they're both awesome lights. The Thrunite just happens to offer more in this case. So we're almost done, guys, but we got to head outside and see these lights in action. Now, the first thing I'm doing is I'm using this window as a reference because I want you guys to see the spill pattern on here, okay? Then I'm going to do a further shot into the woods. But what you're looking at right now is the Thrunite, and that is in the high mode. Okay, I want you to pay attention to just the spill. I'm going to keep the center beam right in between both window panes. All right, I'm going to keep it as still as possible. All right, and then I'm also going to turn on the Streamlight now. So this is just the Streamlight. You can see it has definitely more spill here. All right, in comparison to the Thrunite. All right, so Thrunite, Streamlight. Thrunite, Streamlight. The Streamlight seems to be brighter. The Streamlight also has a very, very bluish tint to the LED. It really seems almost 50% blue, 50% white. The Thrunite is definitely more of a an off-white or yellowish type color. Okay, it makes a big difference comparing the two here. All right, so again, Streamlight, Thrunite. All right, this will give you just a close-up perspective on the spill against the house here and that window. All right, I'm probably standing about 20-25 feet away from the window right now. Streamlight, Thrunite. All right, so now we're going to look into the woods and get a better idea of the throw and the spill at like a further distance. So I'm going to start off with the Thrunite here. Okay, you can see the Thrunite pattern is quite tight. It's throwing pretty damn far. It's farther than what I'm seeing you guys are seeing. Basically, there's like a little cluster right there, trees, a bigger cluster that's further back, and then that like single tree right there. All right, this is shining light past that center cluster into the trees behind, which I'm looking at the viewfinder right now, and you guys can't see all that well. But again, this is the Thrunite. Let's switch over to the Streamlight. Now with the Streamlight here, it looks again like there's a lot more spill, because there is. The beam is a much wider pattern, but it's not quite throwing the light as far out there. All right, so I'll do these you know, directly compare to each other again. So Streamlight, and there's the Thrunite. Streamlight, Thrunite. All right, now with this longer distance here, the color variations between the two don't seem as prevalent as when it's closer. In other words, they both just kind of seem like LED type lights. Let me keep them on. Again, the Thrunite is going to be on the right hand side and the Streamlight on the left. All right, so as I come into the frame here, you can see that. It's just in long distances, it seems like the Thrunite has a little bit more throw, a little bit of a tighter beam pattern, whereas the Streamlight has much more spill. So the Streamlight might be better suited for closer distances, whereas the Thrunite kind of shines outside here. You can't see a little bit further, but not quite as wide. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Always appreciate your time. Feel free to leave your comments down below. If you own either of these lights, let everyone know how you like them or don't like them. Feedback is always key. So hope you guys have an awesome day. I'll see you soon. Take care.